and this would represent terror. Or a thing. A thing could be a tiger, an animal, or a group, or a nation that causes great fear. And what it does is basically paralyzes, or its intent is to paralyze whatever activity that is not appreciated. So that's what we'll just say about terror. Now let's take it a step further and say what terrorism is. Webster also says that it's the use of force and threats to frighten people into obeying completely. The use of forces and threats frighten people into obeying completely. When I think of this, it would mean basically, especially in today's society, we look at terrorism as being something that's forced down from somebody else on nations. But if you look at it according to this definition, most governments are set up in such a way that they force people, literally force people to carry themselves according to certain principles that have been accepted by an individual or by a government. A government terrorizes easily. When a government does something to an individual or a group, for instance, when blacks were slaves, that was terrorism. When Indians had their land taken away from them, that was terrorism. Now, I'm just speaking here about things here in the United States. But I want anybody who's listening to me to understand that what happens here in the United States happens all over the world. It might not be the specific detail, but in reality, the actions that are taken are representative all across the board. When you find people who do these things, commit these things, then you call them terrorists. Let's see if there's another word I'd like to share with you. Terror. Okay, let's see. I got terrorism. To keep power over by force of threats. Now, to keep power, to keep terrorize. This is what you call terrorize. This is good. See, terror. I've given you terror. I've given you terrorism. I give you terrorize. To fill with terror. To keep power over by force of threats. Now, there are so many people in the United States that do stuff that they like doing. It doesn't bother them. Sometimes they get fed up with living and they want to kill themselves, but it's against the law to kill yourself. Ain't that something? Your own life. Here come a government tell you you can't kill yourself. And if you're trying to kill yourself and the word gets out, the government comes back with guns and bazookas and anything to stop you from killing yourself. And they figure that you can't be stopped. They want to kill you before you kill yourself. The message to terrorize. They want everybody else to know that they will kill you. Not turn you loose, leave you alone, and kill yourself if you don't like what's going on. People might start doing that. And then once people start doing that, not afraid of dying, then there's no control. There's no fear. There's no threat. So terrorism begins to cease. People refusing to be terrorized. So we got laws that say you stand up against certain laws and within the Constitution of the United States. And people follow you, they will kill you. Evidence. Abraham Lincoln, evidence. John F. Kennedy, evidence. Robert Kennedy, evidence. Martin Luther King Jr., evidence. Medgar Evers, evidence. My main man from the Muslim world, Malcolm X. Now these are just a few people that have been terrorized. It happens all over in every state. When you find cops that's killing unarmed people, that's terrorism. Terrorism, to keep people in line. When people go and protest, even the Constitution gives them the right to protest. Now you've been terrorized because you got police saying you can't do it here. You got, when I say police, I'm talking about you got the system enforcing itself with terrorism through police. Well, I think you got some idea of what terrorism is all about. But when you say to yourselves, what about terrorism in the world as we as Americans see it? What is the picture? Here's the picture, ladies and gentlemen. If a nation says, I am the greatest nation on the face of the earth, we are the greatest nation on the face of the earth, what is that about? What is that about? Who wants to be the greatest nation? Do you know with being the greatest nation comes the greatest responsibility? Especially if you want to prevent terrorism. If you don't want to be a terrorizer, then you got to be responsible. If you want to forego terrorism, you have to be responsible. That's what comes with being the greatest nation on earth. Why can't you just be the greatest nation that you can be for yourself? Not greatest on every nation should be the greatest nation that it can be for the purpose for which it is established and serves. That's the people of any jurisdiction. And keeping in mind you want to prevent terrorism. Well, so when I say the statement, the unwinnable battle, the unwinnable war, well, terrorism works for the government. It works for the state. It keeps people in line. It allows people to give up their rights. All it takes is a law passed and put some force behind it, whether it's the police, whether it's the IRS, whether it's NASA, whether it's the CIA, whatever instrument is used to carry forward force, to make people or compel people to do things perhaps that they don't want to do. That happens here in every world nation. And you know, we talk about the G20 nations, G8 and all this, and great nations, and the developed nations, and the underdeveloped nations. How does it feel for a nation to say I'm the greatest nation on the face of the earth, and you got undeveloped nations where people aren't educated, living in squalor? I mean, what does that really say about the greatest nation on the face of the earth? Well, we're saying that these nations that do these are terrorist nations. They are terrorist nations. They don't know it. Now let me get this clear. The people basically don't know it. They've been so deceived that their actions, they pat themselves on the back, but they're actually causing terrorism. Now, in response to terrorism, this means that people who have said, well, nobody cares. They don't care about what they're doing to us. They don't care if it's a effect. In fact, they're enjoying it. So we have to do what we can. Now, usually, a lot of these nations, or a lot of this terrorism that comes from these underdeveloped nations, come at a great expense. It's not just taking lives to impose fear, install fear across a jurisdiction. But it's taking your own life, which basically means that it must be a serious matter if you take your own life. But it's saying the things that are happening to a group are actually preventable. They should never occur. But the nation, a nation, since we're talking about terrorism as it exists today, is imposing itself to the extent that others have said no more. And they don't have the wherewithal to just fight an outright battle, an outright war. So they take into account other actions. Actions that I deplore. I mean, I hate it. Because people, innocent people, are the ones that get killed. You can be upset with a government, but you're killing the innocent people. And the terrorists say, well, the innocent people allow it to happen. Or not. All wrapped up in the embrace of terrorism. And so when you have a nation, any nation, that imposes itself on a people, and the people come back, fight back with whatever means necessary, it's a response. It's terrorism fighting terrorism. Somebody say one terrorism is not justified, another terrorism is justified. Justifiable terrorism. Well, terrorism, legal or not, is going to and should cause a response. A response. Some kind of response. Now, as a social scientist, I realize that people who engage themselves in terrorism, especially from the national perspective or from a country, they feel that, let me use an example, let me say the World Trade Center. Now, we here in America, the ones who don't have blinders on, recognize that the World Trade Center was a pretext to accomplish the things that have gone on in America as far as humans and citizens losing their rights and giving others the right to terrorize other nations. When you see that World Trade Center fall down and you get angry and don't think, and somebody tells you that someone else did it and we're going to go get them. Now, they are imposing themselves on a people. And the citizens of America, let me just use America for an example, don't know what's going on. They don't get information. They do not get adequate information on the media, radio, television, newspaper. They get false information, misleading information, deceiving information. And so they are behind it. Go for them. Get them. And those people get got. You say, we're going to get you. No matter what you do, you can't hide. We're going to get you. We're going to bring you to justice. And in the process of bringing other folks to justice, you're going out killing as many people as those that you are trying to say are doing killings or committing crimes against humanity. So you got both sides killing, and killing, and killing. It has been said that killing is a tool of the one who is against life. Some say Satan. Sometimes I think people should understand that the Satan that we know is we the people. We don't see any forktail, baphomet or anything, devil worshiper or any of these things going around. We put names and titles on these because we're trying to keep them from ourselves. But somewhere I heard that a seed produces a fruit. And the fruit that is produced is a replica of the seed. In other words, if terrorism exists, it's because a terrorism seed has been planted. Now, that initial terrorism seed might come from people who want more. Let's put it this way: who really benefits from a nation of terrorizers? Those in power, those who are rich. Look at America. There are people who don't have education, adequate education. Some education, not adequate education, not the best education. People who don't have health care. People who are living in squalor. People who find themselves having to steal in order to find some basic lifestyle. Why? Because they have been terrorized. And why do I say terrorized? Because the whole world knows that nothing on the face of the earth belongs to a human being. Nothing that has to do with the creation of the goods and services which are so vital in the existence of the human race. No human being has anything to do with the earth making, the building, the creation of the earth, and all of the elements. No human being got anything to do with that. The ability for the earth to produce, human beings got nothing to do with that. It's all a given, a power unseen. Well, a loving person, a caring person, a person who does not want to terrorize will make sure that all of the people who needs from this play a part in creating what comes from it. And having played a part in it, you are entitled to benefit from it. No one any more than the other. No one. I know you don't like to hear this, those of you who do anything to be bigger and better and the greatest nation, the greatest person, the greatest race, the greatest society. You do anything to maintain that. So when you do anything, you're planting a seed of terrorism. Why? Because you're terrorizing those who are being denied that which the Creator has provided. I don't mean, oh, let me cool down. This might sound like I'm getting a little stressful. And I realize that the people don't understand this, and the people are going to continue to do these things until the end. And nothing I say here is going to change anybody's mind. It might make them mad with me and want to terrorize me by taking me out of the planet. But I feel it's necessary to say these things because it might help somebody. You see, the Creator of the world and all of us individuals that are in it said that we could have whatever we desire. At least that's what the Bible says, and many of you agree. I agree because when you put your hand to the plow, you get something. But we have choice. So when something good comes to us, we can say, we did all right. Why? We don't have to say God gave us this. No, we can just say, we did all right. And when we do something that is not good, we're going to have something that's not good that comes from it. And we don't have to say that the devil did it. We did it. It's the seed that we planted. But if you don't know that, you get caught up. And when you start fighting terrorists, and this and that, it keeps going and going and going. And the thing that is necessary, required to change this, is that the nations and the people must be born again. Now when I say born again, I'm not talking about going back to some womb. I'm not talking about dying physically and coming back in a spiritual sense. I'm talking about a renewing of your mind. A renewing, a reassessment of the situations of life. What caused the good things, what causes the bad things. And choosing to make a change from that which causes that which you don't like to that which you do like. If you want to end terrorism, world, start treating people right. Start treating people right. If you treat people right, there's no justification for terrorism anywhere. If you treat people right. But that's so hard to do when you got people who think they're better than others. When you think, and then it's hard to say, why do these people think this? I don't know why people think these things. Well, how do you let somebody try to impose fear on you to keep you and make you do things that you don't want to do without you acting the same kind of way? Well, I heard somewhere that you can just resist it. Whatever they try to threaten you with, resist it. Don't have no fear. If they say don't kill yourself and you want to kill yourself, kill yourself. If they say don't do something that benefits you and others are being benefited from it and you're being denied to do it anyway, they put you in jail, go to jail. Proudly. Go to jail proudly. If they want to shoot you down, die proudly. Now that might sound crazy to some people who believe in self-defense. But I say die proudly because I know that all existence is in the hands of another. And I know that every action has its consequences. A good action has its consequences. You do treat people right and they kill you for it, you're not going to suffer. Now, we don't know that as a people. We don't know that because we have